Some people categorize this disc as a Zone SS style disc. I say it flies. What is up, guys? Welcome back to episode number 2 of Rebuilding the Bag. If you missed the first episode, I'll link that up above. Go check that out. Basically what I'm doing is almost completely revamping my bag for the 2024 season.
There's 3 keys to disc golf: driving, approaching, and putting. You need all 3 to do this disc sport.
I'm gonna basically take you through the 3 slots I'm trying to cover. Today we're talking about overstable approach discs. For the last few months, I've kind of been compiling the ones that I knew I wanted to at least try out for the season. We got the Tempo and the A5, the Prodigy A5, otherwise known as the Not Zone, is a disc that I threw for most of last season, and I would describe it as the Zone SS. That being said, the Tempo falls even more into the category of the Zone SS. The Tempo is a straighter disc than the A5, but they both have that overstable approach disc feel. So basically these two are battling for that dead straight to even maybe slightly understable approach disc slot. So this category, we got the A2, and we have the Flex One C-Line MD5. This disc came in the red mystery box, and I honestly threw it a couple times, kind of disregarded it, but they're very, very similar. There's a third one I kind of want to get my hands on. It's the Westside Anvil. It's just different. It's a disc I've never thrown. You guys know I'm trying to end the beef with Trilogy, and I figured that might be a disc, so we might try and get our hands on one of them to compete with these two. But for now, the super overstable forehand specific approach shot. The reason I feel like I need to add this to my bag, too many times I throw a zone on a forehand approach and I just leave it left, because zones really aren't that overstable. I just want something that I know if it's windy, or just if I'm feeling a little nervous, I can just crank it out and it's always gonna fade back. And then the third category is probably like the biggest category right now in terms of, I think I got 1, 2, 3, 4 molds kind of competing for this spot. And it's gonna be pretty much the backhand, slower, less skip, kind of very controlled flex shots, more like approach style, a little less skippy than maybe the A2 or the MD5, but consistently overstable with less glide than a disc like the A5 or the Tempo. The first disc in that category, and I would call it the front runner right now, is going to be the Gateway Houdini. I have a few of them here. We have a nylon, which is kind of like a premium. We have like a glow sure grip, which nice and flat, feels really good, firm but tacky. And then we have this prototype as well. This one has a little bit of dome, which I wouldn't like if I was going to be throwing this disc forehand, but because it's mainly going to be a backhand disc, I don't mind at all. So we kind of have a few options here. The Mint Discs Lasso. We got the Eternal Plastic Lasso, we got the Nocturnal, and then I think this is an Eternal, but a Flex Eternal, so a little bit softer one, which is definitely good for like the colder time of the year. Some people categorize this disc as a Zone SS style disc. I say it flies pretty much identical to a Zone in my opinion. You've probably seen me trying this one out in a few videos over the last couple of weeks, and I get almost an identical Zone flight, but it's a little bit deeper, and for that reason it feels better in the backhand for me. So on those throws you can definitely tell that the Lasso, in terms of the backhand overstable approach disc, is going to be the straightest one, whereas the Houdinis are definitely going to fade out a little bit more. I'm not totally sure on like what stability I exactly want to go with on that one, but my head is kind of telling me lean more towards the more stable ones, being like the Houdini. I feel like they sit a little bit flatter. They also have like a little bit of a bead, so they kind of hit and stick. They come in a nice base plastic. It's grippy, super overstable. I don't know. And then 2 kind of sleeper picks, but they perform well and they fill this slot as well. The Goliath Discs Pillar. I got this from my buddy James back home. It's like a super deep zone, which once again on the backhand feels really good. 3204 are the flight numbers for this, and they definitely are the 04. This thing is a beefcake. And then up next, back at the Big Arm Challenge, Cupcake gave me one of his peppermints. Beautiful purple, kind of like swirly with like metal flake in it. This is another one where a little deep and domey for my forehand, but on the backhand, it actually does feel really nice and handles some crazy torque. So those are basically gonna be the 3 categories that we're looking for. Hopefully you saw kind of the differences in flights throughout that, and we're gonna get back out there, throw some more of these, and kind of talk a little bit more through our thought process. So when it comes to the super overstable forehand approach slot, the A2 I kind of think is hard to beat. I've bagged it before. It's been one of my favorite discs for a long time, but there's no reason not to switch things up if another disc can get the job done and kind of refresh, reinvent the game perhaps. The C-Line MD5, like I said, I've had it for a little bit now. Haven't even thrown it more than maybe 2-3 times. Does it hold up to the A2 stability? Because the whole point of having this in the bag is that you never have to worry about it turning over or getting turned over from the wind. You can just torque on it and it's always gonna fight back. See, that's money. Now let's see if the MD5 actually has that similar stability. Feels similar, looks similar, but I don't have enough experience to really know. Okay, that was not a good throw, but it did have a lot of stability to it. So you saw the pushover Annie forehand with the tempos in the A5. Now I'm gonna show you like the hyzer flip up line. Oh baby. There is a wind coming through there, but that's kind of the tempo, the zone SS slot. I think that blue one is a little bit more stable based on the throws I've had with it. I think the blue one and this are gonna be very similar in stability, whereas the white one with my face dyed on it, I think it's a little flippier. Let me know what you guys think I should bag. Right now, I'll tell you what I'm thinking. I'm leaning towards the tempo for the straight slot. I'm leaning towards the Houdini for the overstable backhand approach, you know, hit and stick slot. And then, I don't know, the flight of the A2 is just so consistent. I think we're gonna have to mess around with the MD5 a little bit more. I think I gotta get my hands on an anvil, compare that to the A2 and the MD5, and then we'll really be able to kind of dial in that slot. All right guys, so we're gonna throw these all one more time, try and dial it in, really feel them out. Just a big hyzer with the A2 and the MD5. We're gonna be aiming up for that disc catcher. Oh my gosh, guys. I still don't think I realize how beefy, maybe that one particularly, because it seems way beefier than the ones Nate was throwing, but that thing is so stable. See, but that MD5 has a really nice flight as well. So the Tempo A5 slot is a disc that I throw backhand as well, but it's completely different use than like the Houdinis or the other deeper backhand style approach discs. This almost just flies like a throwing putter. Go in. Oh, that is the biggest AMI shot I've ever had, but it's so nice. If you've ever thrown a super beat up jawbreaker zone, that's the closest disc I've ever had to the Tempo. Those are great, but one, you gotta beat them in, and then eventually they just don't really have the stability anymore. See, the Tempo, it throws almost like a proxy, but has the overstable approach disc feel. And there's the A5. All very similar, but I think the Tempo beats out the A5 simply because it's a little bit lower profile and just feels better in the forehand grip. Now for these backhand overstable slots, I'm gonna be throwing all of these with the fan grip. So that nylon Houdini, much less stable than these two base plastics, which is interesting. I think that sure grip is kind of the winner right now. I don't know if you can see the basket to the left that I'm actually aiming for there. The first one was a complete shank to the right. Peppermint. I'm definitely gonna say the peppermint is more overstable, a little bit more similar to maybe the A2 stability. Pillar. Very, very similar to the peppermint. So we're not gonna throw the lassos again because if I'm being completely honest, they disappointed me. They didn't feel quite good enough in the forehand for me, which is kind of where I'd be looking for that stability. And then on the backhand, they're just not really the slot that I'm looking for, I don't think. They're just not the stability that I need to trust that backhand flex approach shot. When the Lassos first came out, I immediately saw people calling them the Zone SS, and I was excited because that category excites me a little more than most. As soon as I took them out of the box and felt them, I knew it wasn't really what I was going to be looking for. Great disc, but for forehands, I want them lower profile. For backhand, kind of want it more stable. Well guys, that's pretty much going to do it for right now. It's cold, it's a little bit windy. We're out here at George Ward Disc Golf Course in Birmingham, Alabama. Pretty much on our way through, stopped out here to film a quick video. As of right now, guys, Houdini on the shorter backhand, kind of hit and stick approaches. A2 on the forehand, super beefy. Maybe backhand as well for more skip lines, but A2 still kind of, I think, is holding its spot over the MD5. And then kind of the new favorite is the Axiom Tempo. Oh God. The Axiom Tempo. This thing, it's the Zone OS. It's what I've been looking for. If you've been looking for that category of disc, it's what you've been looking for. Had a lot of people recently comment, Brad, try an A5. They must be new to the channel because threw an A5 all last year. Fantastic disc, especially when you get them beat in. But I like the tempo a little bit more. That's pretty much gonna do it for today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed episode number 2 of Rebuilding the Bag. Let me know what category you're most excited for going forward. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.
And right here, I have a frisbee bag. It holds all my frisbees, the ones I like.